Welcome to Powerline Podcast. My name is Ryan Lucas. I'm your host. All right, this week's episode is with Holland Fry. She's a country music singer-songwriter, also married to a lineman. She has a new album coming out called Long Road Ahead. A couple great songs written about the trade and the industry that are extremely moving. I just really love this combo. It's great to talk to somebody that's kind of a little bit removed from directly involved with the industry, which was super cool, but then also married to a lineman. So some great perspective there. All right, let's jump right into it. Holland Fry, Powerline Podcast. Ashley, it's super nice to meet you. Welcome to Powerline Podcast. And yeah, I'm excited for this conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me on such short notice and making time while you're down south. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. You got a good little setup there.
I tried. I did this for you.
Nice. Love it. All right. I usually start these. I've been primarily talking to linemen for the last year while we've been building this new studio. I do want to have guests from other genres on here. So this is great having you on here from the music industry. That's really, really cool. And a really awesome tie into the trade as well, which we'll talk about, which is super cool. But I usually start these by asking the kind of question like, give me some of your background, where you're from, that sort of thing. But I want to put a little different spin on it today. So my question is, what do I need to know about you from the earliest part of life that would be that defining moment that kind of like turned you into who you are today? If you had to go back and choose something that was like, this is what steered me towards this direction I'm in today.
Oh my gosh. I mean, without getting too deep, I am a therapist, mental health and substance use by trade also, but I think growing up with a single mom, I did have close ties to my father, but they lived in separate towns. So sort of growing up with that separate family dynamic, and as the only child for a number of years, I really needed a friend, and a lot of us find friends in music. So I think for me, just as a young kid, getting involved in music, it's like built-in friendships. And then someone once told me also, you're never alone if you can play a musical instrument. So I would just have to say maybe, my upbringing really steered me into music, which I'm grateful for because some people take that opportunity to get into drugs or alcohol or unhealthy outlets. But for me, it was always music. So
that's amazing. Why did you choose music, or how did music find you, and how young was that?
Pretty young. My mom told me, I probably date myself a little bit, but she was like, when I took you to see Footloose, which I don't even know, that must have been in the 80s. She's like, you were in the aisles, probably embarrassing the heck out of her. But I just think I've always felt drawn to music. And so luckily my mom, even though we were financially strapped, she put me in piano lessons starting around age 5. So I think I don't have children myself, but children or parents choose a lot of hobbies for their children at first. And I'm grateful that she kind of steered me into that direction. So I don't know if I had much of a choice, but I'm grateful that I was pushed in that direction for sure.
I have a 9-year-old daughter, and she's got it. Like, she's got it. And nice. It meaning like she has a voice, and it's a really sweet little voice, and it seems like she can carry a tune. And her grandmother is a piano player, so she's been taking some piano lessons, but none of us really know like how much to push or like how to guide her through doing this without like scaring her off of it. Cause I've seen the other side of it too, where it's like, my ex, her mother is the piano teacher, and she made her play like rigorously, like every day, drilled it into her. I'm not gonna say that turned her away from it, but she really like steered from music in that way. So what would be your suggestion, like guiding a child through that process?
Gosh, I see both sides, right? I see the side of the X saying, okay, well, you have to practice because there is some theory and there's some developmental structure that needs to happen in learning any skill, as you know, with
Sure.
even the trade. Like you have to be an apprentice for X amount of years and it's not fun, but you have to do it to get to that end result. So I think a fair bit of nudging and structure is a good thing with kids in music. And I think it's one of those that even if you resent your parents for pushing you in that direction later in life, you're like, thank you.
Good point. Good point.
um,
Yeah. As long as it works out.
but then you always it's like a imprint though. It's a skill that
Sure.
is always in you. You can't take it out. So I mean, even if you give that to your kids and you sort of force them into it, they still have that somewhere within them. I'm
Yeah.
almost thinking of like when people say, people that lift weights and are very strong muscularly underneath fat can always get their muscles back easier than those that never had it. So maybe if you want to flex that musical muscle someday, it's in there somewhere. It won't be
Good
as hard to
point,
develop.
actually. That's a really great point. Yeah. We need to like we need to we need to push her a little harder because like I don't know, maybe I'm biased too, I'm a parent, but there's something special under there. And
Mm,
I think that's
mm.
like you said, it's a good way to like she's so I have two older boys and my boys are like 19 and 17 and she's 9. So there's like quite a big gap in there. So I think she might be somewhat similar to yourself, like find herself just like having to be alone with herself, like
Yeah.
in her own little world and have this way to like talk to somebody or communicate. Yeah,
Oh, hugely. I mean, literally, it is a language, right? So when
it
I
is.
was going to do this thing, American Music Abroad, and they send you to all these third world countries and you play your music. We might not speak even the same language, but we can speak music. So, yeah, it is a way to
Good
always
point.
meet somebody. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, yeah, good. Keep pushing, Dad.
Yeah, good. What part of the country are you from, and how does where you live and where you grew up kind of shape who you are?
I'm from Montana, down in the States. It was funny. I won't name any names, but I did go to a Dodgers game with one of my husband's lineman buddies and his wife. And I said I was from Montana. And she goes, Montana? What state is that in? And I was
Oh,
like, well, it's its own state. Oh, over by Maine? And I was like, nope, other side of the country. I'm in Canada. It was funny.
hey, I get
But
that. I understand. I get that all the time with Canadians and Americans.
yeah, well, and Canada is huge. So when,
Yeah,
we were talking where you're from in Canada, I need to look at a map because it's like, I mean, it's not just I'm from Canada. It's like it's a big
yeah,
place. But being from Montana is a gift. It's beautiful and everybody wants to live there. It just seems like people are moving there in droves from all over the place. It's just gorgeous place to be. So I'm very lucky. I was always very drawn to nature. I was very drawn to getting outside. I've never taken my home for granted. Like I still would look out, side and just be like, God, it's pretty here. And so that really shaped my music. A friend of mine who teaches up at Montana State University, he wrote that he could just listen to our music and know where we're from based on the style because it's just every place has a style of music. And so I don't know, I think it shaped me and inspired me for sure. There's a song on the new album called Montana Can't You See. So
I was gonna bring that
um,
up. Like, you write all your own music as well, correct?
I do. Yep.
So obviously Montana's an inspiration for you, and it probably obviously an inspiration for that song. Walk me
Yeah.
through writing that song.
I had been on the road with my husband, who's named Dan, and it's funny. On the back of the fifth wheel that I'm sitting in, our license plate says "Book 2" because we were traveling for his work, and we were in Los Angeles or Long Beach, so LA County, and I didn't realize because I'd never lived in a city that there's just a filter of smog. So you look at the mountains, which they're there, but they're duller. They're like, they're muted. And so the farther north we would drive in the summers to get back to Montana, it's just like the greens are greener and the blues are bluer. And it's just this vibrant color. And you don't realize it because there's this like smog filter in a city. And so when I got home, I was, the line is, I can't help but stare. I know it's rude, but the way you're looking, it's all that I can do. Because you're just like, is it always been this pretty here? Did something change? But it's that I had that perspective to go home and be like, wow, it's beautiful here.
Yeah, I
You know,
get it.
so,
I get it. I've traveled around quite a bit, traveled around for work quite a bit as a lineman, and then just like traveled in my personal life. And I get that you get to like these bigger cities or these bigger urban centers, and they're just like you said, there's that filter of smog. Like it's beautiful out there, but you can't really see
yeah,
it. The skies are beautiful, but you can't really see them because there's too much light pollution and all of that. And then like when you get north, when you get into the mountains, it's just clear. Like the contrast is there, the colors are brighter, and it's like, there you are. I can breathe again.
exactly. Yeah. So that whole song is just, someone said, I didn't even come up with that, but they said it's a love song to Montana. And it kind of is, just because when I
Yeah,
got home, I was like, gosh, I've missed you.
I could see that. You have another song on there, on your new album called "The City." Is that like
Yeah,
the contrast to that?
it was. And Dan was so gracious because we were long distance, as I'm sure a lot of linemen and their wives are for a long time. Because, you guys travel and the wives and the kids stay home usually. And so he, though, was like, why don't you come to California and try music down here? So I did. And I'm very established where they call it a big fish in a small pond. And so when I went to California,
Yeah,
I'm a nobody, right? And so I just get rejection after rejection, and everybody's getting this, but it's just new to me. And so yeah, that song was inspired by that, of just like, man, this place can tear you up if you let it. And also that stimulation that you're talking about, like being from a small town going to a city, there's the lights, there's just the light pollution, like you said, there's always eyes because there's buildings everywhere. You have to get used to walking and being like, well, I'm walking through, just constant apartment buildings or sitting on the beach. You're like, hi,
yeah,
like, you know, you're never alone. And so, yeah, it was new and hard for me. So, yeah, that's
totally
where that song.
understand it. I grew up in the country as well, and it's not that I'm like a country person, per
Yeah.
se. I grew up in the country, spent 30 years in the country. Like I get it. That's where I'm from. And I'm not like, when I get to the city, I'm not like, oh, wow, it's the city. Get me out of here. I really enjoy
Yeah.
cities, but I remember like one of my first couple of times experiencing Houston. Houston's like
Yeah.
fourth largest city in North America. And I was thinking, I stayed at the hotel downtown, and I'm like, I got an early morning flight. So I leave the hotel with my coffee, get my car, get in the car with my coffee, 5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. And I'm like, I'll just like chill drive with my coffee, chill drive to the airport for half an hour. The second I hit the freeway, I almost died 6 times. I was like nervous and stressed and sweating. I'm like, forget this place. Like, what the hell? This place is trying to kill me. It's
I
crazy.
know. Yeah, it's different. And I like the city too for a lot of reasons. And yet, yeah, it's very different than where we're from. Yeah.
It's a nice breath of fresh air getting home. Um,
Oh, for sure.
your song "Lost the Trade." I want to
I
talk about
love
this a
it.
little bit because it's beautiful. Like a little story. The first time we talked, and you shared your album
Hmm.
with me, um, I had a few things. I had a few errands to run. So I said to my girlfriend, I'm like, why don't you come downtown with me? She was kind of busy working, but the work that she was doing, she could kind of do on her phone, emails and stuff like that. So she was kind of busy, and I picked my son up along the way, and we went to do a few errands because he had a couple things to do as well. And he's 19, and we stopped at this one spot. He got out, went into the store, and I just kind of like quietly put your album on, and I wanted to start with that song because you'd recommended that I listen to it. So I
Hmm.
kind of like I put that on, and he jumps back into the car a couple minutes like into it, or a minute into it, and I started driving away, and I just had it on softly, and I was trying to pay attention to them. So Vic
Yeah.
was on her phone, and she kind of like put it down, and just like you could see her like start to listen to it. And my son as well. Like my son's like Travis Scott and Drake and like hip hop, like and he's even like he's just like listening to it, like this sounds familiar. Like there's something familiar to it. And they both listened to it. And right as soon as it was done, like it's almost like tearing me up. Like they're both like, damn, Dad, like that's deep. And I was like, wow, yeah, like this, oh, it's a special song. And I just wanted to say, like, you really did nail it with that. Like, it's good. Like, it's getting me right now. It's amazing. Yeah.
Too, hearing you say that, that's so sweet of you to share that. And
Yeah.
yeah, it gets me too, especially coming from you all that are in the trades.
So walk me through it and walk me through writing the song. Like, why did you write it? What is it about? Tell the audience like a little bit about Lost to the Trade.
So when we were in Southern California, at the yard my husband was working at, which was a contractor of Edison, they had an accident fatality, and it a person that we knew running the equipment where this guy had taken a ground off by hand. And so Dan had come home and told me the story of, it was a guy from Arizona, a young guy, had a wife and kids at home here in Arizona, and then ended up passing away. And then he said something like they had him on life support so they could keep his organs. So the woman could come say goodbye, for one, and then so that they could give his organs to fellow linemen, which makes me sad too. And
Amazing.
so the whole thing, it just like, and that's when people talk about my songwriting process, it's just that where I hear something and I can't get it out of my head. And it's like, it hits me in this spot where I have to write about it. And so I sat down and I wrote that song about that incident. And yeah, I think it turned out so well. And it just is, each person I've heard that listens to it, they pull something different out of it, which I just
Sure.
love, like the line mama who had,
Dell.
right here,
Yep.
keeper. Yeah.
Love Dell.
She was like, you wrote, it's like you were writing about my son,
Yeah.
which means a ton, and then, Paul from the
Power
power
Element.
element.
Yep.
He was like, it was like you were writing to experiences I had. And so that means so much to me because
Mm-hmm.
it's a cautionary tale, right? It's like those lessons go away or people get in a hurry. From what I've heard, they call it hard money, right? I know some of the terms.
Absolutely.
So you get in that groove and you just, mistakes are made. And so it's just a kind of a cautionary tale just to be careful. And also in the very end of the song, it says almost like the wife's perspective of like, well, you wish you had told him you loved him and to be safe. And,
Yeah.
in the very end, he called your name. And I don't know that. See, that's where songwriting is like half, it's like 3/4 the truth and 1/4 of my imagination. So, but for me, I would assume that would be how it'd be in the end if it was my person.
I think absolutely. Like you see it in you know, everybody who ever writes a love story, whether it's a movie or a book or whatever, like their last words and final words are, like tell them I love them, whoever that is, whether it's your significant someone, your family, your kids, like whatever. And I couldn't imagine it would be any different in real life. It's probably
Mm-hmm.
written from some part of truth too, like paramedics or people who have seen this sort of moment or been experienced this moment. It has to come from that place. Like, it's powerful. I really loved
Yeah.
the lines, and I don't remember the exact words, but the verse about when it's happened and his soul or something is still on the pole trying to figure out what just happened, like that was just like it's it's really unique being able to like actually picture yourself in these scenarios because
Mm-hmm.
it's been there. Like most linemen, as I'm sure Dan has had, or close calls, like near misses, we call them, whatever. Whether they're reported or not reported, there's moments that happen where you kind of sit back and you go, holy shit, like that was really freaking close. Like that was
Yeah.
it right there. I got lucky. Like
Yeah.
I got caught. Wasn't paying attention. Nothing happened, but that was the moment. I've had one or two of those moments that were like, kind of like peel off to the side, sit down, take a deep breath, cry, like, holy cow, like that was a moment. It could have happened. So lines like that, man, you really did do a good job. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and I hope it just makes everybody feel comforted and not alone, and is a tale that we can all relate to, whether you're a lineman or not, and
Yeah.
but especially if you are.
Yeah. I love the attention to detail. And I love that the producer you were working with or whoever you were working with that came up with that electrical noise. It sounds like for all the linemen listening, it sounds like a switch opening. It's that brah, like that very recognizable noise at the beginning that you're 100% right. I've heard you speak about Dan talking about it, saying like, that's a noise you don't want to hear, right? And it's definitely gives you chills. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, I mean, and even so people don't know what that is, the layman, right?
Yeah.
They're like, "What was that?" And then when I say what it is, they're like, "Whoa," because then it just ties it all in that much more, they
Hmm.
don't know. They're like somebody listened at one point, they were like they thought it was a mistake. They were like, "Hey, did you notice that, like, white noise sounding thing at the beginning of your song?" And I was like, "That's electricity, that's supposed to be there?" So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was one of the biggest adjustments for myself as a lineman was I went from a regular lineman to I became bare hand trained. I'm not sure if you know what bare hand training is, but it's like where you actually bond yourself on to energized conductor and work it while it's energized. And most of the voltages that you work are like transmission size voltages. So the ones I started on right away were 500,000 volts, big transmission lines. And so that noise is something that you do when you go to bond onto that energized conductor. It makes that noise, and you're doing it on purpose, like it's part of the act of doing it. But it was like the biggest mind shift for me. Like, okay, this is okay now. Like usually when you hear this noise, it's like somebody's dying or something's blowing up. It's just not good. But now, every day, all day, you're physically making that noise, bonding on yourself or a piece of something else, hardware, material, tool onto this conductor. You're making that noise, and that was one of the biggest mind shifts for me. It was like, okay, this is okay. I'm all right.
Yeah, so you have a
Yeah.
different experience with noise than most linemen would, I would imagine.
Um, Speak a little bit about the perspective of uh, being married to a lineman. Like, what has your life been like so far being married to a lineman?
Oh my god. What do they say? Like, the linemen have the highest divorce rate of anybody? No,
It's fact.
it's I think it is or something, but, it's great for me because I'm very self-sufficient. I can entertain myself very easily. I don't have to have. Dan and I met later in life actually at Sturgis at the motorcycle rally. I rode my motorcycle out there by
Oh, no
myself
way.
and yeah, met this nice group of guys from the Midwest, and he was one of them. Because in Montana, we joke we have a saying that the odds are good, but the goods are odd. So,
Oh man, I think that works for more places than Montana for sure.
Canada for sure, I'd imagine too. But so I mean, of course, being a contractor lineman, it was challenging in the beginning, right? Because there's no schedule. It's like being married to someone who's always on call. So you'd make a plan, like we're going to dinner tonight. And it's like, oh no, we got called in. Or you'd have a plan, and then like the time would pass. Like it'd be like hours after the time, and they're still working. And I just really realized like you can't be mad at a person. It's really not his fault. I mean,
Yeah,
in California, they can hold I think the guys for 24 hours and they take 8-hour breaks and go back. So
yeah,
I mean, he's dead tired and it's not like his first choice either. So it was really good. And if I had any control issues, let's say, being married to a lineman really helped with those because you have zero control over their schedule. And he wasn't a foreman, so neither did he. That's kind of where I got with it. He was just going to work when he got the call as well. Um, it's been fun. It's been an adventure too, right? We get to travel and go different places and see different things that I would have never seen had I just stayed home and been married to what do they call them? A 2-county boomer.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I get
If
out
that,
and
yeah.
yeah, I get to go to different places, and just this whole new, I get to speak with you and just learn these new, like, learn all these tools, these terms and this trade. And I say most people don't think about linemen unless your power's out. Like, you just don't consciously, as just a citizen wherever you live, you don't think about what you guys do. It's just like,
Yeah.
I never paid any attention to bucket trucks or linemen or cover up on a line. Now I'm like, I look and I'm like, oh, that's a brand new line. Or, now I can kind of say the things, and I'm a dork, but he's like, wow, you really got the terms down. you know, it's
It
interesting.
it's a good have you ever been to the International Lineman Rodeo?
No, I'd like to though.
It's a really
Sometime.
it just happened in mid-October. I've been 5 times, and it's a really unique experience when you see, like, you've got a taste of it being on the road and,
Yeah.
meeting other significant others from the community and other linemen. And like when you get together, you understand now, like, why it's a brotherhood and like why it's a, brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever, and why it's a great tight knit community that's kind of unlike a lot of other communities out there. And I know a lot of people like roll their eyes when we start talking about it, because it's like, oh yeah, sure, you know, but like it is for that reason, right? Anyway, when you get to the International Lineman Rodeo, you see thousands of us, good or bad, but thousands of us come together. But I really like how it's the same everywhere. Well, and we're all the same, and it is a big community, and we're all tight knit, and you get thousands of
Mm.
us together speaking that language, and you see the families out too, and you see the kids out supporting their mothers and fathers, like competing. I don't know. It's just a really, really neat experience. And then you get a little taste of that when you're traveling and tramping around, and you get a piece of that culture, and it's pretty cool.
I bet it would be really neat to be part of it. My friend Allie Carlson Kelly, she went, and so she gave out a
Yeah.
bunch of CDs, which was so nice. But her husband, I think, participates a lot in the lineman rodeos, and even I could just go locally to the one in Montana. It'd be
Yeah.
fun to just go
That's
see it.
actually a really great rodeo too, to be honest. I've heard that. I haven't been to that one, but there's more than one in Montana, but there's one that comes to mind, and I could actually text you which one it is, but when I think back on it. But a buddy of mine's been there a few times, and it's really picturesque. It's amazing. It's like usually, there's usually like a skiff of snow on the ground, and it's all mountains in the back, and it's just like a different feel than Kansas, right? That's where the International is, in Kansas City. Hey, sorry, Kansas. Kansas is beautiful, but it's not
Okay.
it's not Montana.
It's different. Yeah, it's just different. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'd like to go.
Um, what advice do you got for somebody that's maybe listening, and just jumping into, a brand new relationship with somebody in the trades?
I think you could go with the advice that my husband and I operate, and he always says, "Don't fight with me before work."
Oh, good
Which,
call.
I've adopted that so much because I care about him, and any of us that have relationship difficulties, it sticks in your head, right? It's not just like, oh, boom, I'm at work, I forgot about it. You guys are dealing with high voltage power, tools, all sorts of things that could hurt you. And the last thing you need is to have your minds clouded with a fight at home or something going on. You really need to be present in your jobs, I think. So, I mean, my advice, if it was for a line wife or someone married to a lineman, is, if you really have that need to feel like you need to bring something up, maybe write it down. And then later that evening when they're off of work or that there's a better time, bring up your concern.
Write a song about it.
Yeah, write about it and play it to a bazillion people. It's one way to get your point across. Yeah.
No, that's great advice, though. I like that. All right, switching gears back to you and your songwriting. What's your favorite song to perform?
Oh gosh. I really love that last song on the album, Quietly It Waits. For
Great song.
me, that's one of my favorites just because just if you're in tune at all to nature or the seasons, if you grew up in a northern country where, like everybody lives for the summer and it's just you make it through that hard ass winter and then you get to the summer and you just live for it. And then there's that moment, and it's not even a bad thing, but it shifts and it's like
Yeah.
the grass turns more red or gold and the geese, there's more action in the sky. And if you pay attention to it, it's just telling you, hey, it's coming. And when you live in a fifth wheel trailer and travel for work, it's also a cautionary tale of, hey, you better get out of here or you're going to be
Yeah.
stuck. Because when you have a two-wheel drive first gen Cummins truck
You
that's
have
pulling your
two
camper.
weeks. You have 2 weeks from that point.
All right. Um, so I like to play it because all the guys and people I play with also they like to play it. So it's just almost like one that transports you into this different time. And so we almost just it's like whatever the audience is doing or the crowd, it's
Mm,
almost like they don't even exist and we're just playing that song. It's just kind of sweet. Same with Long Road Ahead. We really enjoy playing that one. We're just it's like almost I think because we just went in the studio and did all this, we can almost just like check out of the audience. No offense to them, but then it's just like we're doing our thing, and that's what I think audiences appreciate. Is
yeah.
at least you're watching a band, and it's like they're just so into it that you don't almost even exist. You know?
It's like a great athlete or anybody when they like drop into the zone, right? And that's when
Yeah.
you'd want to see them at their best. They're focused. They don't know that you exist. Actually, we have at Quanta we have some pro rodeo athletes that
Nice.
are our ambassadors, right? And one of them is we were just talking about this. His name is Casey Field. He's a 6-time bareback champion and
Nice.
6-time world champion. And he talks about getting in that chute, and it's like everything goes silent, crowd disappears. It's him
Mm.
and the horse, and the next 8 seconds. But he said the same thing. It just fades away and disappears, and he doesn't know any of it exists. But that's when the magic happens. That's why he's a 6-time champ. That's really cool.
Yeah, you need that. You need to be able to check out. I mean, that's why visualization is so important too in that field for sure.
Do you practice
Just
that sort of thing? Visualization?
I should, right? It sort of goes hand in hand with meditation or
Mm-hmm.
mindfulness. I just have a busy mind, so it's hard for me to just sit still and be
Most
quiet.
creatives
And
do. I get it.
yeah, I know multiple people have, with even anxiety or anything. Hey, have you tried meditation? It's like, I
Can't
think
take that
exercise
long.
is. I like. Well, you did it the other day. You had a post on that stair stepper. Like that
Yeah.
is my like mind reset because that thing is so painful and you
Yeah.
get so sweaty and it's so hard to even do that for 20 minutes that
Yeah.
then my mind calm and quiet and I can't really think about anything else. So I like
Yeah.
exercising.
I agree. I just got back from a trip to Nepal. I was I went to Mount Everest, base
What?
camp. Yeah. And that's honestly, now that you mention it, that's like honestly one of the most times I was like most peaceful. I You
Mm.
couldn't think about anything else but your next step, and you had to talk to yourself like that. Like I remember like this was my conversation to myself in my head was one step forward is a step forward. One step forward is a step closer to where I want to go. And it was like that on repeat. One step forward is
Wow.
a step forward. You get to the end of this by taking one step forward. Like that's what because you just can't think about anything else. Your heart rate's jacked. You've been climbing straight up for like an hour and a half, 2 hours of just stairs, it seems, or whatever, rocks. And it's like one step forward is a step forward, just one more step, just one more step. And that's how you get to the end. And then you get there 7 days later, but you get there. And that's, yeah, it disappears.
Amazing. Yeah. And that's wonderful. I mean, being a counselor, that's those are words of wisdom that we could all live by. Just that, exactly, to get through
Mm-hmm.
any tough thing. And then the reward at the end of that was, I'm
Yeah.
sure, amazing.
So amazing. Such a unique remote place on planet Earth. It's cool because
Mhm.
I even like like I've noticed now coming back that it makes for even cool conversation just sitting around a dinner table out for dinner with people. It's like, where's some cool places you've been? I'm like, oh, I went to Mount Everest. And it's like, what? I've never even met anybody that's thought of doing that. Never mind done it. It's pretty cool.
No, that's amazing. I mean, yeah, who has done that? Very few people, I'm sure.
What's your favorite song to write?
Like kind of category or
Or just like favorite song that you've written?
um
Or are they all kind of
gosh,
like
good.
your children?
No. Some I don't like some of those children. I'm just kidding.
Hey, I said that before too. Actually, it's a funny story. I sat my boys down before and uh, I was like, okay, guys, I'll pay for counseling later in life, whenever. But daddy has a favorite and it's not you two. And they're like, it was kind of funny though, because they're like, oh, dad, she's our favorite too. I'm like, okay, good. We,
That's so cute.
it's my little girl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love yeah, they're not all your favorites, but I will say a lot of them are my favorites. And I think gosh, I think writing which one? Man, I don't know. Maybe The Long Road Ahead was one I really liked writing, and I like listening to it. I listen to it a lot, actually, in my
Hmm.
own car. I listen to it here. I listen to it. It gives me comfort. It's just a very comforting song. I don't know.
I
Yeah,
like
I
that.
loved writing. Yeah, and it was a letter to myself from myself, kind of like your one step forward. It was, because it's like take a moment, take a breath, take some time to rest your weary head, take a moment, take some time before you speak your worried mind. So we could all use that. Like, hey, before you say something, like just take a moment, take a breath,
Heck yeah.
and then also it's about not leaving yourself or leaving yourself alone. Like, I'll always be there for you. So
Yeah.
I like that. It just comforts me. So even if I'm having a bad day or stressed out, I can just put that on and I'm like, "Oh, I feel better." And I hope other people get that feeling too. That's the whole point of music is that shared experience of, you know, I can't be the only one that had that experience. So it's nice. You're
Well,
not
that's the
alone.
great thing about I country's always been my go-to. Like I
Mhm.
grew up in the country. I grew up around like I've heard you talk about 90s country. Like 90s country was it's still what
Yeah.
like the country I think about when people talk about country music. It's literally Garth
Yeah.
Brooks and Travis Tritt and like it's all the 90s stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what pops into my head first. And then there's all the popular new
Right.
country, right? But that's the cool part about music is it's very storytelling and country music in particular. Like you can really
Mhm.
tell a story through country music, and that's what I really love about it. And I know lots of people don't like country; they just can't be bothered
Mhm.
by it. But I think they should just open their minds a little bit and listen to it for those reasons. Like you can sure get a story across through country, and I really love that. And it seems like you do a really great job at doing that. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, it took me 13, so I put the last full length album out in uh, what 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And so luckily because I'm an independent artist and I pay for this all myself, I don't have to turn out a bunch of stuff. I don't
Mm,
have to I could wait and I can feel the feels and write the songs that I want and pick the ones that I want to put forth to everybody. And so, people are like, when's the next album? And it's like, probably not for another 5 to 10 years. So, this one took a lot out of me. So just
yeah.
hang tight.
Yes. Enjoy
Don't
it. Put it on and learn
exactly.
something from it. Yeah.
And enjoy. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I love it too. And it took so much out of me. And I mean, Dan, when I first met him, I was doing this album. I was writing this album. And so he was funny. So funny story. one time he called me, right? If you've ever done this, and he didn't mean to. And he was in the truck with another lineman. And I was like, oh God, what am I going to hear? It's like, I shouldn't have stayed on the line. But this guy's like, what do our wives have to do all day? Like, what, to get their hair done? Like, yeah, so I'm like, oh God, what's he going to say? What's he going to
Oh no.
say? And I'm like, and he's like, dude, my wife, she's working on her album. And I was like, oh, but
That's amazing
thank you to
though.
him also for hanging in there, because that was a long time ago. Like, that was 7 years working on my album. And he could have lost faith too, of like, dude, when is this album be out? But it takes time. And so I just appreciate his patience as well of, it took time, and I'm really proud of what happened with it,
I was just
you know.
talking about this with Dex actually, because he's a creative as well. Photo, video. He's just in the creative space his whole entire life, and we kind of get each other this way. And I said, like, creativity's messy. Creativity takes time. It's one of the things I struggle with in my new position, largely because of my old life as a lineman. Like, I grew up around line work, second generation lineman. I was a lineman
Mm.
on the tools for 15 years. And in line work, it's very much like productivity. Like, everything you do, you can see. Like, you can see a result, and you're constantly
Yeah.
doing something, so you can constantly physically see a
Yeah.
result of what you're building with your hands.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with art and creativity, like, even coming up, with like intelligent or just great, trying to find great questions to ask guests, like, it takes time, and sometimes, like, it's messy, and I sit around, it seemed to just sit around, and like it's like I'm not doing anything. Like, that's what I feel inside. Like, man, Ryan, like,
Right.
you're not doing anything. What are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
do something. Cause like that's ingrained in me to physically
Right.
do something. But then all of
Yeah.
the sudden it just like comes, like, and you hit this flow, and like all of the right questions come out, or all of the things I'm trying to make or create just like come out of me, and it's all done in 5 minutes. And it's like realizing that all of that time, however much time that was, you needed to give that space, and you needed to give that time to just sit and think and create,
Mhm.
and then finally it all comes out of you. I don't know. Is it similar for you? You find that with a creative process?
It is for me. And I like that you say that, because a lot of people force themselves with writing to write every day. And that's their shtick. Write every day for
Yeah.
10 minutes, or have your routine, get your pen and paper. And that doesn't work for me. Like, I need to not do anything. And then all of a sudden, like you, it's
Yeah.
like this wave or feeling, or almost like channeling. If I was an intuitive or a tarot
Yep.
reader or something, it comes to me, and I have to find my guitar and just sit with a pad of paper and a pen, and then boom, there's a song. So that's a different writing style than most people. For me, I write all at once, and then it's done. And so with these songs, like The Lost to the Trade, I thought it was done, and I was done, and I was ready to go in the studio. But then because of COVID, I had to put it off a bit, the recording process. And so I sat with it. So that last portion, well, you wish you told him you loved him, I actually went back and wrote that later.
No
And I
way.
don't usually do that. I usually am just like, it's done. I don't ever look back. It's what's done is done. And I'm really grateful I did, because that
Yeah,
one,
that made it.
right. And so
Mhm.
I even went against my own ways, which I'm glad I did, and went, maybe this could use this. The Montana song, it didn't have the Montana. Like, I went back and I was like, okay, I think it needs this like catchy ending, that goes off of the Montana song, which there's a song that's, the state song. I don't
Okay.
like, oh,
I don't
Canada.
know. Yeah. Gotcha.
Canada or Montana.
I'll take your word
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I think I always had my way, but then like you're saying, but then I'm glad I was open to trying a little different. But nobody told me to. Like, I wasn't about to follow the people's rules of like, hey, write 10 minutes a day. That just feels like work to me, and this is something
Yeah.
that gives me pleasure. It's not work.
I feel like a lot of times too, it's like you kind of got this idea of what you want to create, and you don't have the spark yet, and it's like you don't know where the spark is going to come from, so you're kind of just
Yeah.
like searching around for it. Like a lot of the times, I use social media for like different reasons than I think a lot of other people do. Like I go to it to look for inspiration to create, right? So I follow a lot of creators and that sort of thing, or I use nature in the same sort of way. So it might take like going for a hike or a walk, and it's not till 3 hours into it you see one, view of a mountain, or you see something, you see a bird do something, or just something like totally random that you could have never planned, that was like the spark, and it's like, that's what I got to do. And then
Yeah.
it's like, then it just comes, and it's like, that's what made it happen.
I
I don't
love
know.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seems more organic to me than mechanical. I like that.
Yeah. I know some people aren't that way, and some people can just do like you talked about, just their process is sit down for 10 minutes and just write, just start writing, and it comes to them that way. But yeah, I'm not that way at all. It takes hours, sometimes days, years.
Oh, yeah, years. And that's why I appreciated you so much. And I think I've adopted it's like a lineman mentality almost, where it's like I get anxiety planning. Like, I
Yeah.
prefer when we're gonna meet and I was like, I don't know, just let me know that day, like, hey, how's today work for you?
Well, you're the
Well,
only one. It's so good. I'm like, yes, she gets me.
I get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. 'Cause it's even like I'm planning to have lunch with people here in the RV park, and I'm like, I just would rather be like, hey, are you free today in like 10 minutes? I'm hungry right now. You want to go now?
Planning
You know?
literally makes you anxious. I hate being like, maybe it's just a commitment thing. I don't know. Maybe that's why, why I'm not married. I don't like to commit for too long to something, because like I get anxious about the time. Like it's like I don't like flights for that reason too. I'm the type of person that shows up to the airport like 3 or 4 hours early. Like make sure I'm there early, because I don't like the
Yeah.
anxiety of like that moment coming. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird. I'm weird that way.
Maybe we're commitment phobes. Who knows?
Yeah. You seem like, okay, so listening to your music, um, you seem like you have an old soul. Who
Ah,
who was your inspirations for creating the music you have and becoming who you are musically? Who are your inspirations?
gosh, well, I mean, I was partially raised by my grandmother, so I mean, I did get raised partially by someone who went through the Great Depression, so I do have a lot of that mentality of like the saving and the worrying about stuff like that, and living off the land, and there's a lot of things from that generation that can be beneficial. As far as artists are concerned, I think we always start with the people our parents listen to often. So, I did get a nice mix of like 80s, like Madonna and Michael
Oh
Jackson,
man,
of course.
Whitney Houston. I'm a big Whitney
Yes,
fan.
Mariah Carey even, but like she's a little bit later. But um and then, the Judds, loved them, loved the 90s country, Alison Krauss, Gillian Welch. She's an old time songwriter that I really
Mm,
admire. Very simple, very effective, writes a lot about other people's stuff, which I appreciate as I've aged, not just like me, my heartache, my one time I had a boyfriend that did this, or, it's more intelligent almost seeming of like
yeah,
writing about, uh, you know, she'll write about like train songs about the 1800s, or hopping trains, or just historical events, and so yeah, I just admire a lot of, and Alison Krauss. I like people that can also play and sing and write. I mean, I don't know about her writing, but Alison Krauss is like a amazing fiddle player on top
yeah.
of like beautiful singer, and so I just admire the heck out of that, where people can play multiple instruments too. I know I don't think I got to your question, but it all sort of comes in this big
Yep.
mishmash of what shaped my musical likes.
Creativity's messy. that's the point.
Yeah, exactly.
You taught yourself to play guitar later in life too, right?
I, yeah. I taught myself around my mid 20s. I was in Bellingham, which I told you I lived up there doing the student exchange for Montana State University to Western. And you have a lot of, there's a lot of guys in this industry and they're like, "Hey, baby, quit your job. I'll," like my
So
husband,
bad.
just kidding. No, quit your job in California. No, but they're like, "Hey, quit your job. I'll back you up," or I'll, and so I just really learned quickly. And I don't fall for that stuff. I'm always like, yeah, whatever. But I just thought if I want to play out, which I desperately wanted to, I need to learn guitar because that is just the most effective tool to back a voice up.
Sure.
Piano's great, of course, like, you're talking about your daughter. But there's such great resources out there like Cordy or what is the other one? Ultimate Guitar. And they show the guitar broken down in this, the headstock. And so just mathematically I taught myself because you literally you have a fret, the second fret, the third fret, and then they put these dots on the fret. So you pick your favorite song, which a lot of those 90s country songs are just three chords. And so I just sit down with the paper and the dots and just put my fingers where I needed to. And then I learned that way. And even my one bandmate, he's from Sweden, and he's like, "You do not play a D chord with these fingers. You play it with these fingers." And so it's just because I taught myself, I play it. I play things like
That's
wrong.
wild.
Technically,
Oh,
it's funny. So
whatever.
it's, well, and I mean, there's purposes. So, like, if you play your fingers with, or that D chord with these, like, you can use a different finger for walking, probably your pinky. But like playing it with these, you kind of limit yourself because this finger's stuck all the way over
That's
there. But
hilarious.
so it's just, I have some residual bad habits, I guess you'd call, because I taught myself. But because I'm not a real picker, like a real like lead guitar player, it doesn't bother anything. But it is funny because I taught myself. Yeah, so
That's
it
amazing,
worked
though.
out.
I picked up a guitar like quite a few years ago and I got okay with it, but it's been just hanging on my wall for the last like 20 years. And it's something
Oh my
so
god.
that was a genuinely curious question because I want to pick it up again and I want to like make that like a bucket list thing is get back playing guitar. I'm not very like musically inclined. I but I'd love to just like be able to play, just pick away at.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, plug for those sites. I mean, just go on there, pick your favorite song or artist, and then look at their chord charts. And you're like, oh, interesting. There's the dots. And then you just put your fingers where the dots are, and then you have a song. It's so cool.
Yeah.
But it's just, like my mind, I don't know why it's like this, but like my boss taught me a funny acronym, and she is not musical at all, to remember the strings of a guitar. Cause even me, I'm like, EAD. But it's funny because I worked at a substance use treatment center, and she goes, the strings are, every alcoholic does get better eventually.
Oh man, that's beautiful.
I've used it a lot. I use it all the time, actually, because I'm like, EADGBE. Okay, good. That's a B. That's a D. So
Amazing.
whatever it
Love
takes.
it.
For the kids, you might have to redo it to like every elephant does get bananas.
That's awesome. So good. What was the motivation behind the name of your band? And then talk to the album cover a little bit. Where does that come from?
Okay, so the name, my middle name is Jane. So is my grandma that I'm so close to. She's Belva Jane, which is so funny, and I'm Ashley Jane. So little Jane, I'm pretty tall. I'm about 5'10". So, large Jane or tall Jane is just not the same ring to it, or big Jane, as little Jane. And then being from Montana, I've always been intrigued by the West, like Tombstone, Wyatt Earp, Deadwood, just like that mentality, the 1800s kind of turn of the century, and just if someone got out of line and just conk them over the head, and like you know
Pistol whip 'em.
like any justice system, so not that I condone violence or anything, but it just was a nod to the Western feel that I like. And then the album cover, I'm so grateful. There's a really talented guy offline. His name is on Instagram. It's No Ego Studios, which I just love that name. I mean, there's so much ego in a lot of this stuff. So I just was glad
100%.
to find him. And he redesigned our logos, which actually I have a sticker right here. So he redesigned this little logo, and then there's another one with a guitar um, and whatnot. And then with the album cover, I just had to beg him to do that. And I love, actually, I have one right here. I love art for albums. Sorry, don't mind the top of my head.
It's all good.
Um, Here, you can get a look.
Heck yeah.
It's hard
No,
to.
it's great.
Yeah, just so you know, if you look it up, then you know what you're looking
Yeah.
for or at. But so I gave him that song Quietly It Waits. I was like, hey man, first he wasn't going to do it. And so what I got out my little ruler and my charcoal pencils and a drawing pad. And I was like, I did like a, like where you draw the lines, like you're drawing a highway in going off in the distance. So I drew them like, so they were like this. And then I just did lettering with the ruler. And I was like, any chance that this inspires, like I was trying to make it easier and trying to
Yeah.
entice him to work with me,
Give them
even
a
though he was
starting
so bit.
point. Yeah.
Exactly. So he was like, okay, I'll do it. And he did kind of with this, it's similar. So you can't see it, but the arrows go off in the
Yep.
distance, goes off in that distance. And I gave him the song Quietly It Waits, which talks about the geese flying in a V, which is included in that art. And I've been spending winters down in Arizona. And so, I mean, ideally, it's a little bit backwards because it's looking, the geese, well, maybe not. They're flying towards what would be Montana, I'm assuming, because there's the mountains, there's some saguaros, and then just this road that goes off in the distance. And when I saw it, I just was like, oh, it's perfect. Like it couldn't have been more perfect. And I believe personally, it's my nothing wrong with using a photograph for your album cover, but I think it means a lot more to use art because it gives someone else a job and a voice also in your project. You're actually taking the time to hire an artist who creates a whole original piece for your album. And so in any of these, I hired two people, right? I hired Nico. Is that his name? Yeah, I think so. Um, is that his name? Why the hell? Well, it's No Ego guy, but I hired him and then the woman that put it all together, which she's really talented too. She did that T-shirt I sent you
It's
with the
so
pinup.
awesome. It's so great. I love it.
Yeah.
I,
So
that's a great
I,
point. Like it's a good way to collaborate with other artists and other art genres as well, right? Like I'm a musician, get an artist to create the album art. Like that's such a cool idea. I love it.
well, and he's funny. He doesn't post a lot where he's from. And I said, "Hey, man, can I send you something like a hat or shirt?" And he's like, "I'm in Argentina." And I was like, "Oh, well, I could always send something there too. No big deal." But yeah, he was. He's not even from the States, but he did just does a great job with Western or cowboy kind of feel or art.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really cool. Okay, I got a couple questions for you that are questions I ask kind of everybody just at the end of these things. So
Okay.
I'm curious your perspective on these. So they're just kind of like finish my sentence kind of questions. So if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
My God, I would live in probably New Mexico. Is that weird? I just
New
would live
Mexico?
somewhere that
Why? You need to explain why.
well, because it seems like okay, so I did watch Longmire. I don't know if you did, but
Yeah.
love so pretty, right? They pretend like it's filmed in Wyoming, but it's actually filmed in New Mexico. And so what I realized is New Mexico looks just like Montana. And so then when I realized that, I also assume they have a lot shorter winters than Montana.
Yeah.
So if I could live somewhere, maybe I could live in Montana and take 2 months off a winter.
I love it.
That would be
Hey, that's why I'm in Texas right now. I get a couple of weeks every month of no winter. I'm good.
ah, yes, exactly.
If you could have coffee with any historical figure or just anybody from the past, who would it be?
Probably Gillian Welch. I mean, she's from the current, but I would love to just pick her brain about her writing and
Yeah, I love
how
it.
she like her. Yeah.
Um, the best advice you've ever received as an artist?
Ah. The best advice I've ever received was from a woman who lives in Livingston area named Joanne Gardner. She worked for Sony Music. She was a big like filming person. She filmed a lot of Alison Krauss's albums, specifically one song that I cover, which is called Steel Rails. Um, and when getting into this business or this talent or whatever, she said, because I it's curious, like, you see it goes through trends, right? It's like right now country is really hot. Like it's like, everybody's dressing like a cowboy. Everybody's, and it's
Thanks, Yellowstone.
I right, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so I've always kind of done that though. So she said don't chase. She said it's like a pendulum. If you want to try to all of a sudden be a bluegrass band, like the minute you get to be a bluegrass band, it's going to be back to country. And then you chase to country. And then it's going to be whatever it is. It's going to be alt country or, hip hop country or whatever. So I really like that from her because she just was sort of gave me that advice from someone I admire just to say, just stay true to you.
Mm.
That pendulum's just going to constantly go this way. And so don't, chase. And there was someone locally and they said, these people aren't getting a lot of traction. They're thinking of being a bluegrass band now. And it's like, well, they're not a bluegrass band though. Like they're great at what they do. Why don't they just stick with that? So I like
Love
that
that.
advice. And it's a lot of just like, just stay true to who you are. And either people are going to like you or they're not. And that's okay.
I think a great way to like potentially test the water in another genre is like collaborate with somebody from that other genre. So it's not like you're fully committing, you're just bringing like your
Mm,
flavor to that. It's like a country artist she's teaming up with a rap artist to like make some
yeah.
piece of music, but it's not like they have to fully commit to a rap album. They just like, work their style out.
Like Billy Ray Cyrus and
Yeah,
who's that
exactly. That's
guy?
what came. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Slipped
and
my
I will
mind, but yeah,
say,
that's the one.
so on this, I do feel because I am a bit of all of those things, there is a bluegrass song. There's
Yeah.
banjo, there's mandolin, and
Yeah.
these are all my buddies at home. So I mean, there's a little bit for everybody on this, I feel.
Yeah.
Like there's some gypsy jazz, there's straight two-step songs. There's like the Lost to the Trade is almost like a rock song in a way. Like it's got some
Definitely
edgy,
shout out to your band. It's great.
oh,
The instrumentals are fantastic. The guitar, the like, I don't know them all personally, but like you said, Lost the Trade, like there's solos in there that are beautiful. Like it's great. Yeah.
yes, almost make you cry in some spots. I mean,
Yeah.
it did to me when I first heard it. So, yeah, we have Mike Singer on banjo, Natalie Padilla on fiddle, and Mike Parson also on fiddle, Tom Murphy on mandolin. Quentin King is the guitar player, acoustic and electric. Russ Smith played bass. There's girls on the harmonies. That's Jody and Krista. The mandolin player and the bass player sang harmonies. Ethan Decker did drums. And then it was mixed in Canada and mastered.
Amazing.
And yeah, Daryl Neuendorf did with that Lost to the Trade song. When it came back, I was like, whoa, because that's not how the drum sounded when it hits the big booms and flashes. And my voice, he multiplied, like, it was like boom, 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 flash, 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 flash. Like he did that. And so it made it just dramatic every time it
Yeah.
hits boom, flash. So
It's so
yeah,
cool how it's such an effort from a bunch of really great talented people to put a piece together, right? Like that's
huge.
so neat. Yeah.
I guess I forgot cello also on here, which is so
Hmm.
cool. I love cello and then bowed bass. So when you hear that like gritty, like sound, people are like, what is that? It's the bass being
Yeah.
bowed. Like she was a symphony player too. And then Luke Sheeler played percussion and he also captured all the sounds and he did such a great job. So yeah, I'm very lucky and we are lucky in Southwest Montana. I'd say I'd go to bat any day against anybody and just say, we have as good of musicians as anywhere in the country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's amazing. Where can people find you?
The music's on Spotify, it's on iTunes, it's on Apple Music, which I think is iTunes these days. Is that right? Like
Correct.
you look up.
Yeah. But
I'm a grandma.
yeah, I get it.
Not really a grandma, everybody. I don't even have any kids. I have a cat. We have a cat. And then on our website, we do have some shirts, hats, t-shirts, all of that, which is www.littlejaneandthepistolwhips.com. On all the streaming platforms, YouTube, you can see a behind the scenes making of the album. There's a video up there, which cracks me up because a person just pointed out the video is titled Montana Can't See You.
That's
and I'm
so
like,
good.
I never pick that up. It's Montana Can't You See? And so I've watched it so many times and I've never seen that. So he's going to fix that.
Was that like a dig to Californians? Like, hey, Montana can't see you.
And then the funny part is, it is on here, when she was doing the type font, she actually had it Montana. It was Montana you can't see. And so it's like everybody's had this different tweak of things, but this one I caught, but that one I did not. So I haven't, yeah. So there's a cool video of us in the studio and it's all live. So what I appreciate about that is a lot of times people will do all the music and then they'll go back and like lip sync a video. That is a take. Like we're doing our takes. So all the solos, everything is like literally live. That's why I don't look so pretty, right? Because otherwise I'd have like hair done. I have headphones on because I'm actually in the studio
literally
doing
grinding it out, work in the studio. Yeah. Who cares about hair? That just reminded me, I saw a great, it was an Instagram reel or something yesterday of Alan Jackson back in the 90s at like the CMAs or something. And the producers told him that him and his band, basically said, your band can go out and play, but you're just singing over top of, a track that's put behind you. And so before they all went out to stage, he told his drummer not to bring his sticks. So the whole song, you can see this too. Like you can go on YouTube and see this. He's like, the whole time his drummer's just playing with no sticks. And it was like the biggest middle finger to the producers of the award show, because it's like, screw you. We came out here. My band is here. We're playing this. Like, you can't take that from us. Yeah, exactly.
Sure they could have done it live and it would have been amazing. Yeah.
So
I'll check it out.
Love
Stuff. Oh, I forgot. Instagram, Little Jane MT, and then Facebook, if you're on there, is Little Jane and the Pistol Whips.
Awesome.
So, I'm so grateful you gave me this chance. You're so nice, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's really great to meet you, and anytime you ever need support from us, we're here for you. So, yeah, thanks for your time.
Huge support. Thank you for all that are watching, and especially to you guys. So thank you.
All right, guys, as usual, hope you love this episode. And if I could ask you to do that one thing for me, like, subscribe, follow. I guess that's more than one thing, but please, if you could go to whatever platform that you're listening to these podcasts on and just make sure you're subscribed or following, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever, just please do that for me. Love you guys. Catch you in the next one. Peace.
What's left of him, and I know that his soul is still up on that pole, wondering what happened. All it takes is one mistake. Now he won't be around to say, and it's boom, flash, there goes a man. know.